Hello and welcome to our Dungeon Master Deep Dive. We are coming to you live from the Indiana Castle here in the UK, and we are just about to begin our next round of the Indiana Castle, and we have pulled aside one of our Dungeon Masters who's going to be running hardcore mode for the Indiana Castle in this round, Mr. Jayden King, who is joining us tonight and about to begin the Indiana Castle tomorrow. So how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited. I'm rested.
Well, that's surprising.
Very. Took it some time to get my long rest in, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Awesome. So you just got here when? How long have you been in the country so far?
I think we just hit 26 hours.
20, yeah, ish. So about a day.
Yeah, a little over a day.
Still getting in the groove. And how are you feeling about tomorrow?
I'm feeling pretty excited. I mean, this will be my first time doing hardcore, and it's exhilarating.
Exhilarating.
Yeah.
Okay. So what made you want to do hardcore mode then?
I love running games, and I've noticed when I ran games before, I go a little over the standard time, but also I want to take advantage of having more time to really dive into some of the stories and development that I kind of was planning and prepping. So the chance to play longer, immerse more, and have that experience with people, I couldn't miss the chance to do that.
And what is your hardcore mode campaign? What's the story? I mean, we don't have any spoilers, but what are you doing for your game? What's it about?
So it's Godfall reclaiming the divine. In essence, all the player characters were in their own normal lives, whatever it was, and the prologue leads them into dying. And at their moment of death, all the gods died from some mysterious event. And so at that moment, these random heroes and villains on their dying absorb some of the divinity lost from the gods and wake up in this purgatory-like realm. And in that realm, they are the last pantheon of the world. So an entity is removing all forms of divinity to bring the world to absolute balance. And so these player characters, who are all different alignments, we have everything from lawful evil to lawful good, neutral good, are on a journey to rebuild a pantheon with what little divinity they have left, to reclaim the realms and find a way to stop oblivion.
And where did this idea come from?
So I normally run my Kojitar Urban Fantasy, and the joke is every adventure takes place a month after the other. So every month there's an apocalyptic event, the world ends, and that adventuring party finds a way to restart the universe and make a small change, maybe a little less magic, maybe a little less technology. And so every month it's always a new apocalypse that no one else remembers. And I've been sitting with these apocalyptic events and cataloging them all. And I decided to bring all those to the forefront at once in an idea of what happens if all the gods were gone and all powers faded. What would it take for adventurers to not only become gods, but what would they do if they had the power to become divine?
So all of your past campaigns they've all been set in the same world, in the same setting?
They have all been set into Kojitar, this one urban fantasy city that kind of everything keeps happening to this one city. They've had the internet create machines that took over. They had a Grim Reaper show up. They had a death giant come in and try to destroy everything. They had elemental beings striking. And every month, it's been the same apocalyptic event for some reason in this singular city. And this time, it happens in the same way, but instead of at the city, it's what happens after, when the apocalypse couldn't be stopped this time. And so they get a chance to try and rebuild after the fact. So a lot of the player characters in this round have already built characters in the city of Kojitar at that moment of apocalypse. Some are other realms, but yeah, it's all in the same multiverse of this is the apocalypse. So what happens after if the other adventurers did not succeed?
Right. So this city, it's been experiencing an apocalyptic event every month.
Every month.
So how is the city still there? Like, what is the state of this city right now?
It is beautiful as always. Every time it happens, the apocalyptic event is undone. And only people who remember are the people who survived it, if there are any survivors. So when the death giant came in, it kind of cleaved the whole city, started bringing in infernal beings, and celestials came and attacked. And then the player characters got some eldritch entities to give them powers to stop the infernals and celestials and ask for everything to be better than it was before. And the city next month has no idea that the apocalypse was last month. Their memories get kind of changed to be like, oh yeah, I guess we had inclement weather, maybe, perhaps. But the player characters always remember. So every new campaign, the old player characters are a little spiced around into the next campaign as NPCs to carry on like, you don't know what I experienced. I can't tell you because that's the rule.
I see. So where do you start with these ideas? Like, what's the seed of each of, let's start with the campaign that you're running this coming week. Like, where did that seed of that story come from?
It comes from the idea I love larger than life adventures where you're not the chosen one, you just happen to be who's available. And it's always like the prophecy says a legend will come, but they died. So you're what we have left. And I wanted to start with that. And originally I was going to do something smaller and start within the city, but I wanted something so grand. I was like, oh, the gods chose you. I'm like, what if someone killed the gods? Eldritch entities. What if something destroyed them? What if everything was destroyed and there was no hope left? And I wanted my player characters to start there, where they're like, look, it's going to end anyway. So you want to try? Because it's not going to work, but you can certainly try. And that was the idea.
You
Like,
can certainly try.
create the most opportunity for them to have no chance to succeed and be like, prove them wrong, maybe? And just kind of put them in that environment of good luck.
And what are your players like this round? I mean, I know you've met with them. So at D&D in a Castle, you meet with your players sort of online.
Mhm.
They give you their characters. You share with them sort of what they can know beforehand. How have they responded to this particular campaign?
They were way more excited than I thought at the
Ooh.
premise of knowing that they could become gods. And especially because in this campaign, I did something different in my character building. I usually set up the rules on like what level we're starting equipment, but I told them they had to pick an alignment. And I created an alignment test for their character. Like what would they do with this and that?
Mhm.
And their alignments were critical in deciding their character. And then I told them they could write whatever backstory they want, but at the end their character dies. And I felt like that's important because I get a lot of players in other games that you're starting at level 3 and they're like, and then I slayed the lich as their backstory, but they're only level 3. So I wanted to give them a chance to do that. And they went on. They fought liches, ancient red dragons. Some of them worked for one of the great gods and was in a god war. Like they got to have the grandest backstories because their characters start off losing all that and try to find their way back. And I think they truly loved having the chance to make their characters larger than life and then having a second chance. Some characters were lawful evil and they're questioning whether or not evil was the right choice. We had some that believed they were neutral good, but realized that they weren't doing good enough. So like they get to experience a possible alignment shift in that. And they were so enthralled in that like storytelling as we had our session zeros and our one-on-ones. And they are eager to see what kind of mayhem characters who have fallen can on their rise to godhood.
And are the players that you have for hardcore mode? Hardcore mode, for those who don't know about hardcore mode, you pay 50% more D&D than all the other players at D&D in a Castle, and they're already playing 8 hours a day, so you're playing 12 hours a day. And our hardcore mode campaigns, we just want to add something a little bit bigger, kind of push the boundaries of what D&D can be. So, have you found it attracts any different kind of player in any way for hardcore mode?
I don't think so. These players, some of them have expressed that but they would have never done hardcore because they didn't think they could play that much.
Mm.
For the hardcore, a lot of them are return castle players.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of them have done the castles before and never thought they would do hardcore, but they were like they loved it so much that they're like, there's not enough time, but hardcore fills in the time that they're missing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it attracts all kinds there's players, at least one enjoys mechanics a little more and is excited for the level of crunch that we've talked about. Some of them love the idea of being able to really have more character time.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the amount of 24 hours, they're like, I still want more. And now they'll have more time for their characters to shine, to be able to talk, to role play, to interact. And I think hardcore, for all the intensity that the word brings, I think is less about intensity and more about experience, that you just get more. You get more combat if you want it, more role play, more exploration, more characters, just so much more. It's not about it being harder or hardcore. It's just about having enjoyment, like 50% more enjoyment.
Yeah. People always say, I just want more D&D.
Yeah.
We just have more D&D, and not every game can or wants to play 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
Not every player, not every DM. So it's certainly targeted, but be interested to hear by the end of it whether you felt you were able to fit all that in. Yeah. What are your ambitions sort of for your game? What do you hope that you achieve, or that you hope the players walk away with, or that you hope you get to see in the game?
Interesting. So this game specifically, because it's hardcore, I wanted to bring a mechanic that I feel will really emphasize the intensity of hardcore. And so, since the idea is there'll be a striving to achieve godhood, they start off as sparks, little people with like small bits of godlike energy, and maybe one day they can become truly divine over the course of the campaign. Well, in that, they get to build their own divine realms. So they start off with maybe a small little corner of a room that has their little icon. And over time, through the adventure, they get to build their base basically and establish what their divine realm looks like, what kind of followers, what kind of champion, magic items are built on them. And so what I want by the end for this hardcore is that they will be able to leave the campaign with a fully flushed out god of their character, with the icons, champions, and even backstory developing how they became that. And what I'm excited is to have like each of their characters fully drafted as new divine pantheons that people can just kind of enjoy, and the characters can be like, this could be a god for my future character. I want to become a paladin or a cleric or otherwise. And I think that's what I'm super excited about, is to see the journey that people make when their characters can become gods, and what they do with that space that is theirs when they carve it out. And it's better than just decorating a room. The whole realm becomes theirs to decorate how they want. So I am eager to like have that experience and just watch their enthusiasm into that.
Have you prepared any differently for this game compared to other campaigns that you've run at the castle?
Ah.
Because you've been at the castle a few times.
Yes.
And I sort of imagine there's lots of learning and changing and growing. So what have you applied this round? And specifically, because it is hardcore mode, has it changed the way you've approached the game?
So normally I think I'm used to like running ongoing campaigns where I get, maybe once a week, every other week, I run 2 to 4 hours games. Because D&D Castle allows me to play more continuous and ongoing, I get to really control pacing a lot better. I don't feel like I have to cram a lot into this one session this day because I'll have to wait another 2 weeks. And I think it allows me to really slow down. And so the prep I did for hardcore mode was I controlled my story beats to be a bit more rhythmic. So their experience is they have their adventure, there's things that'll happen, but each day they get to go back and rebuild their realm. So we actually have, at the end of each day, I have like a wrap up of accumulating how much faith and devotion they've accumulated for their followers and their actions. And at the top of each morning, they get to spend those to upgrade their realm and continue on. So they really get to experience the journey of building their realm, and I've paced it that it fits within the parameters of gaming days. So each session has beats, but each day really starts off on a specific note, where they'll end being like, this is what we've done, kind of like a nice recap, and they start the next day like, this is what we do to upgrade, so they're ready to move on to the next part of the session. So I think controlling my pacing and the schedule is where I really dialed in this time.
Cool. And this is, we were just debating how many times you've been to the castle, somewhere between 6 and 12, depending on which events you count. So, anyway, several. We'll say several. You've been some number of times you've come back to the castle. And what keeps you coming back?
Oh, it's the experience. I run digital games all the time, and the occasional live game, but there's something about being able to be not just in the castle, to be in a place where I get to run the games for people who are excited to be here, and we don't have to have the responsibilities of everyday life bearing down on us. Every day I have to consider, what kind of food I'm going to be making, what are we going to be doing for family time, I got to drive kids to school, I've got to do so many things. But when I'm here, I know that no one else has those concerns. They're not worried about washing their dishes. They have to go do their laundry. So we get to escape fully into the game and leave the burdens of everyday life on the outside and really connect with people. And I think because that allows us to be more vulnerable, more intimate, and more willing to go into the depth of role play and gaming together. And that is an experience that I am so infinitely grateful to have, because I've made some of my closest friends by doing this now, and have had an experience that I think I couldn't replicate even at home if I've invited people, because I get to be free and create freely and collaborate with that freedom.
And what What do you think makes D&D in a castle worth coming to for players? Because it's an investment of time. For many people, it's an investment of travel as well, and monetary investment as well in a vacation like this. What do you think makes the castle worth it compared to other ways to spend your time?
I think the clearest way is the community.
Mm.
When you come here, you get part of something bigger. You're not just meeting online where you're like, hey, these people are people I play games with. People will come and they'll talk about D&D, but it's not just D&D. People will be like, oh, I also like this show. I like this movie. I'm a parent, so I do this. And you start to bond with people, realizing that you share more than just the gaming, and you start to find new friends, new connections, new interests. I mean, just a few hours ago, I was talking about more books I want to read, and everybody was like, "Oh, here's my book suggestion. Here's my book suggestions." And so we shared more creative books in a way that allowed us to freely talk about that. And now we're all going to probably be talking about the books and be like, "Hey, this is the book." It not only expands my community, it makes the members of the community feel tighter, closer, and more comfortable. And I think that alone, to feel not just part of something bigger, but to feel closer to other people, especially nowadays, that's something you can't pass up on. That's not something you can just replicate anywhere else.
Even if you had to describe like an adjective or a word to describe the atmosphere, the feeling at the Indiana Castle, how would you describe it?
Oh man, I could think of a couple. Like I want to say unreal.
Mm.
Um, I it just it I think unreal is all I can think of as a dungeon master with so many words. There's something about being here that when you try to describe it, it feels like you're telling a dream to someone else. You're like, "Yes, I went to a castle, I played D&D, I got served food, I got to walk around the courtyard, and these awesome things happened while we rolled dice. The music was amazing, the lighting." And I can feel like other people would be like, "Wow, that was a crazy dream you had." And you're like, "It wasn't. It wasn't a dream." And like no matter how many times I describe coming to the castle, I try to explain to my friends, and I sometimes like even my kids try to explain it to their friends. Like, yeah, so my parent went to go do this, and they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "You." It's one of those things that truly you have to be there.
Yeah.
There's just no way to properly describe it other than being there and seeing the magic for yourself.
Cool. So when we hold these interviews, one of our reasons is to sort of allow our audience to get to know our dungeon masters and sort of for choosing who they might want to play with in the future and get a sense of who's at the castle. If you were talking to somebody who was coming to or thinking about coming to D&D in a castle, how would you recommend that they go about, choosing their dungeon master for this kind of experience?
Well, I think there's a couple factors to consider. So you can consider whether or not first off, all the DMs have such a range. So if you're someone who really likes the ideas of combat, there's certain DMs that really thrive in having intense combat experiences from high levels. There's those that enjoy level 20 playing. There's those that enjoy creating puzzles. So whatever style and form that a person prefers playing, there's a dungeon master that has that as their specialty. And I think just going through, I think the collection for D&D and Castle of Dungeon Master that are available, just browsing the options of like what you're looking for, it's always available. And every round has that spread. With a collection of like dozens of dungeon masters that are available, each round has those that enjoy the gothic fantasy, the grim dark, the urban fantasy, the sword and sorcery, the swashbuckling, the more humorous tones, the more intensity, more drama, and that's all in one round available. And I think just finding the small thing you really like and just going with it. Because especially all the dungeon masters, they focus heavily on giving the most beautiful experience possible. At least I know me and a lot of the dungeon masters I talk, we don't do just one session zero. We're ongoing conversations. We're talking with the players, we're getting to understand their characters, we're weaving the stories with them. That by the time we come in, we've already technically been doing like text by playing by post for weeks, months even before they show up. So I think just finding the small piece that a single dungeon master offers will open up the world of everything else they offer. And it's you can't go wrong with that.
And what do you think somebody would be looking for if they chose your game? What would be the thing that could resonate with in your game? What are you offering that's sort of uniquely Jayden King? This is the Jayden King game. Is all about this? What would that thing be? I mean, it might be multiple things, but
Multiple
it
things.
probably is multiple things, but what kinds of things, to help those who are looking and thinking, oh, that might be the dungeon master for
There's
me,
definitely a
'cause
couple
that's what I'm
things.
looking
So I will say one, urban fantasy is my thing.
Yeah.
I believe that D&D, for all its wonders, still needs SUVs, the internet, and some modern elements. I think people having the power to pull out a cell phone to look up a wiki page of a monster they're fighting really immerses things and gives people a chance to experience D&D in a way I think very few people get to. But also, my adventures tend to be larger than life, bigger than necessary, and putting you as the center opportunity to make really big, dramatic choices. Where even if your character sacrifices himself, you get to go out with big bang. Because I'm a narrative first dungeon
for.
master, and I think telling the greatest story is always more important than what the dice want to say. But sometimes the dice has an opinion, and I stand by it. And I think those are the two possible things: is I thrive with urban fantasy, and every adventure, like I described, is apocalyptic. So you will be facing some beautiful, dangerous odds from low level all the way to reaching the tier 4 play and getting to just cast wish against the reaper of everything at the edge of the universe as a meteorite's coming down. Because, yeah, it's Thursday, and everybody knows that Thursday is Apocalypse Day.
Amazing. So we're live at the moment. We have been on for about 25 minutes, and I'm wondering if we have anything. I'm looking at Justin. We don't have any questions at the moment or comments. Well, if you have any questions or comments, if you're watching this after it was live, you can always send those to us, either commenting on the video or sending us an email, contact@dndinacastle.com, or you can visit our website, dndinacastle.com, and send us a chat message there. We answer your chats on there as real human beings. We're real people answering those emails and chats. Well, is there anything else you want to add that you want people to know about? Where can people find you?
You can find me on all social media at It's Jayden King. Pretty much anywhere that people connect, I'm there. I also am working on several projects all the time, all everywhere. Working with Infinite Stories to expand the ability of storytelling, and I have a lot of adventures that I'm working on with a delightful team of people there to put out content that will range with explosive music, voice acting. We have a lot of art potential coming through. We're trying to create the ultimate library of stuff to expand adventures, that there's less work for the dungeon master and more enjoyment for the whole table. So yeah, Infinite Stories is what I'm working with, and it's Jayden King to find me. And there'll be all kinds of magic happening, so just be on the lookout.
Amazing. So what I'm going to invite you to do is take us out of the interview with just an invitation to anybody who might be watching to come and experience D&D in a castle, possibly experience hardcore mode whenever they are able. So take us out, and then we will see you all at the castle.
Oh, so at some point, you gotta love rolling the dice. And when that roll happens, it's a journey. And I think the only place to have the peak of that experience is with other people who are just as enthralled, just as excited. And Dean in a Castle has given me that every time I've come to be able to run games for people who have made memories that never end. So if that type of gaming is what you're looking for, which I hope is anyone who likes to roll the dice, Dean and Castle is the place to be. And if you're worried that it's not enough gaming, that's exactly what hardcore mode is for. And if you need a special type of intensity, Jayden King will offer it. So if you have the chance, if you have the time, and if you have the passion to roll dice with people who love the game as much as you do, Dean in the Castle is where the community sits. So come with us and play. Let's roll dice.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Jayden. Thank you guys for watching. And I hope we'll see you at a castle soon. And we're off on our adventures. Thank you for joining us.